Takes place at roughly the 5:15 mark of the episode. Side of the stage of the King Lear play. Jeevan squats down in front of young Kirsten, still in her young Goneril costume, looking a bit dazed. Jeevan. Does anyone know where Tanya is? Jeevan looks around. No response. Jeevan. Canted. All right, come on. Let's go find your Wrangler. Kirsten looks at Arthur's body for another moment, then looks at the hand. She eventually takes it. They go. Intiper Theater backstage, Chicago. Here, moments later. This scene is immediately after, at about the 5:30 mark. There are parts of the deleted scene that are exactly the same as what appears in the show. This is more of a few chunks of film that was cut out of a longer scene to make time. We're in the crowded backstage area now, where droves of performers and crew still chatter in hushed tones. A couple of cops, people in suits, theater management, chaos. Jeevan pushes through, holding Kirsten's hand. He releases it, looks into the group. Jeevan. To Kirsten. You see her? To a stranger. Excuse me, sir, do you know Tanya? No response. Young Kirsten. Young Goneril. Then. That's who I was. Points. That's old me. 2. Kirsten nods toward Goneril, who's at the other side of the room, shaking her head and talking into a phone. Jeevan sees a man in the crowd who looks vaguely like him. Jeevan. Hey, check it out. That's old me. He tries to eye her into liking his joke, but it doesn't get him anywhere. They move around together, still scanning. Jeevan. Ted. Tanya? Hey, excuse me, do you know a Tanya? She's the Wrangler. Jeevan looks down and sees that this girl is standing frozen. Kids aren't supposed to see such things. Jeevan's seeing that whatever adrenaline hit he's coming down from, this girl's in shock. Young Kirsten. Do you think Arthur's dead? Exterior L Station L Platform Chicago, Weezer night. This scene would go roughly at 11:35 into the episode, between the scenes where Kirsten sits in the dressing room as Miranda and Arthur talk, 10 days before, and then it cuts to Jeevan on the phone waiting for the train. Jeevan and young Kirsten walk up the turnstiles to get to the EL station. Jeevan. We can grab the next one. Any word from your parents? Jeevan swipes himself through. Kirsten right behind him swipes herself through too. She shakes her head. Young Kirsten. My mom usually doesn't answer when they're out though. Jeevan. Lincoln Park, you said. Young Kirsten. Yeah. 3. Jeevan. I live in Rogers Park. So we're both park people. Jeevan takes a beat, wondering if he's done enough to be a responsible person. Jeevan. Ted. I can ride with you to your stop and just keep on going. They begin to walk up the stairs to get to the platform. Kirsten steps a few steps up. She looks at him. Young Kirsten. Tanya walks me to my door. Jeevan stares back. Right. On the hook for more work. Jeevan. All right. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. They continue slowly climbing the stairs. Exterior L Station, L Platform, Chicago, Y0 later. Frigid. Still no sign of a train. Kirsten and Jeevan sit side by side. She's on Insta. He's got his phone to his ear. Laura. OS phone. Hi, you've reached Laura. I can't answer the phone right now, but I'll call you back. Maybe. Jeevan. Into the phone. Hey, it's me again. I'm gonna be a little later. I have to drop something off, but Exterior St. Deborah's by the Water, June. Y17 night. This seems to be an alternate ending to episode 101. This would have appeared instead of the scene of adult Kirsten reading S11 in the sand dune when August walks up and tells her that they are rehearsing, which actually takes place at 28:44 in episode 104. Also note that the original script, this deleted scene, takes place in year 17. A stage. A different version of a stage than where our story began, this one made out of 3 large wagons linked together. 4. We are outside instead of inside. There's lake off in the distance. The earth has changed, but someone's still performing King Lear. We push in on the center section of the stage, where 4 actors are in the middle of a scene. On stage, there are boulders scattered, and at the back of stage, a gentle snowfall, some analog special effect making magic. A young actor, Alexandra, looks at a figure slumped center stage, seated in a wheelchair. Near her are Dieter, 50s, and Jeremy, 30s, their attention also focused on the slumped figure. We keep pushing into this production of King Lear. Cordelia, Alexandra. How does my royal lord? How fares your majesty? The slumped figure at the center of things is Kirsten, Raymond, alive and well and come full circle, eyes closed, crown on her head, now the lead like Arthur, seeming to be dead like Arthur too, until Lear's eyes open. King Lear, Kirsten, you do me wrong to take me out of the grave. Thou art a soul in bliss, but I am bound upon a wheel of fire, that mine own tears do scald like molten lead. She rises out of the wheelchair, takes a step, looks at Cordelia, the wings of her costume now fully apparent and extended, Lear suddenly powerful, very much alive. Cordelia, Alexandra. Sir, do you know me? King Lear, Kirsten. You are a spirit, I know. Then, where did you die? Kirsten, the one who didn't, waits for an answer. 5. A hawk from a handsaw. Exterior road outside St. Deborah by the waiter Y20/D one day, probably at 5:30, but maybe at 9:45. After the conductor meets young Kirsten and explains why the travel. Then adult Kirsten scouts ahead on their way to St. Deb's, before or after they fix the tire. Clomp clomp, clomp clomp of hooves on pavement. A white horse comes into view. It's Kirsten Raymond, 28, sweaty from the summer sun, approaching a sign that reads St. Deborah's with an arrow, indicating a road that veers off the main road. Kirsten dismounts and slowly walks up to the sign. We're on a small sculpture, 2 twigs bound together with green grass. Not sure what it is, but it's hanging from the sign's post. Kirsten crouches down to examine, picks up the small sculpture. A quick flashback to young Kirsten, alone on the road by Laura's cabin. Chief. An eerie feeling, and Kirsten looks out into the woods, watching carefully, perfectly still in the summer sun, eyes ticking, hyper-aware, scanning. We see her from a disembodied point of view from somewhere inside the woods as she looks around. She focuses back on the sculpture, turns it in her hands, looks at it for a beat. We see that it's quite similar to tattoos that are on her wrist. Another quick flashback to young Kirsten, reading a page from Station 11. There's a loud bang! Then, from down the road, and her head snaps left at a sound, her eyes thin with vigilance, drops the twigs. She climbs back up on her horse, Luli, ranging ahead, but now focused on the sound. With a quiet clicking sound, she expertly tilts the reins and leans Luli back the other way, gives a kick, and Luli begins to canter down the road. As she goes, we see Kirsten draw a very large knife, holy shit, from a sheath across her back, almost a knight on her way to battle. 6. Hurricane. Interior Rural Home Kankakee. 1990 Day 1. I think all of the Kankakee scenes could go pretty much anywhere in episode 103. Probably it was supposed to be the opening. An old TV is on, blaring, showing the swirl of a weather pattern hurricane. Grave narrator, on the TV. Off the eastern seaboard, and be a threat to the Charleston area. We had already seen the destruction Hugo had wrought in St. Croix in Puerto Rico. We knew Hugo was a killer. The TV switches to footage of destruction, streets flooded, buildings falling down. Grave narrator, on the TV. Conti D. I'm Rob Fowler. We've started bringing you hourly updates on the tracking of Hurricane Hugo. We also told you to prepare in terms of buying supplies. By Wednesday, Hurricane Hugo had gotten stronger. A girl sits on the couch, looking around a house she's just arrived at. Miranda, 10. Sees a notepad on a table, gets it, draws. Her sketch starts as a hurricane swirl, but soon that circular swirl starts to evolve a bit into something resembling a helmet. Then, an elementary, bubbly figure. Grave narrator, Conted, and continued moving toward us. A hurricane watch was issued. Nails, hammers, and plywood are in hot demand tonight on Folly Beach. Hushed voices from another room. Miranda hears Aunt Phyllis, 30s, talking to a girl, Kenya, 12, in the kitchen. Kenya, OC. It's weird. She doesn't talk. Aunt Phyllis, OC. Go on. 7. Footsteps from the kitchen. Then Kenya appears, over it already. Aunt Phyllis appears behind her. Aunt Phyllis, Conteed. Miranda. That's Kenya. She's your cousin. I'm your auntie. You're gonna be staying with us for a lit. Miranda doesn't say anything, just looks. Aunt Phyllis, Conteed. Well, your grandma told me you changed your name to Infinity? Miranda stares. Aunt Phyllis, Conted. Your daddy named you Miranda, so it's Miranda. Then, you want a grilled cheese sandwich? Miranda goes back to drawing. Aunt Phyllis disappears into the kitchen. Kenya stands at a shelf beside a crystal trophy. Kenya, you see this? State of Illinois Science Fair Grand Champion. Me. So don't even think we're roommates. Kenya leans in. Kenya, Conted. Don't touch my clothes. And if you ever try and read my diary, I have a fingerprint detection system, and I'll fucking kill you. Miranda just stares at her cousin. Aunt Phyllis pipes up from the other room. Aunt Phyllis, OC. Kenya? Why don't you take Miranda to see that movie you always talking about? Kenya, Prelap. You like Kid and Play? 8. Ext. Rural Road, Kankakee, Niniteen, Nineti Day. Miranda follows Kenya through the neighborhood. Miranda's still eating her grilled cheese. Kenya. When I lose my virginity, I'ma do it with a guy who looks like Play, but not before junior year or you're a hoe. Then, what'd you do for a whole week after the hurricane? Young Miranda just walks behind her cousin, taking small bites of her grilled cheese sandwich. Kenya, Conted. I heard you were stuck in your kitchen. A pause. Where'd you pee? Young Miranda takes another bite of her grilled cheese sandwich. Kenya, Prelap, Contidi. I just knew Mama had a brother, and they didn't talk. Extra Rural Road, Kankakee, 1990 Day 1. The two girls drag sticks along the road. Kenya. I was never allowed, to ask about you or write a letter. So that's one good thing. Twice on my hand at least. I'm glad you survived, though. 'Cause I know you. Miranda stops, looks back down the road. Kenya, Conteed. You glad you survived? Kenya finally notices Miranda stopped. She stops too, turns and looks. Miranda's looking at the corner. Kenya, Conted. Miranda! Dr. Eleven stands looking at Miranda. Kenya called, see hem, Neve ganya coat. Let's get Eve Seda, Erzales Vorabi, Miranvaturns, goes bow with Kenya o Kenya coat, Mo mad bowdiv Ivrior, Rural Home Kangai, 1990 Day. 1. The girls stand at the door. Kenya scrapes off her boots. Kenya, to Aunt Phyllis. Mama, we're home. Kenya walks into the kitchen. Miranda looks around the room, takes a deep breath. Aunt Phyllis, OC. Quietly. How'd it go? Kenya, OC. She's all right. Then, pretty much told her she could live here. Her eyes find Kenya's crystal trophy. She walks to it, reads, places a finger on the base, pushes it a little, nudging it toward the edge. Miranda pushes it a little more. Miranda stops, looking at the crystal trophy, considers for a beat, then continues to push it, pulling it off the side of the shelf. It falls to the ground. Shatters. Kenya comes quickly back into the room, sees the damage. Miranda turns and grabs her backpack, heads for the door. Kenya, taunted. Why'd you do that? Miranda? As she runs out the door. 10. Exterior Rural Road, Kankakee, 1990 continuous, across the snowy yard and down the road, backpack flopping, barely holding on as she runs. We try to catch up to her and then fade to INT. Hotel Seri Gumam Conference Center, Hallway Port, Klang, Malaysia. Wizaro Day 1. A woman on a moving sidewalk at a hotel conference center. Phelps, OS. Carol, Miranda, 40, turns around. Interior Neptune Logistics Office, Chicago, 2005 day. This could take place pretty much any time between 2:25 and 4:40 of episode 103. Miranda, now age 25, sits in an office. We are focused on Miranda the entire time. Leon, OC. What are your... Then. Who are your role models and why? Miranda. Bruce Lee. Leon, OC. And why? Miranda. Be like water. Leon, OC. What would your former colleagues say about you if you weren't in the room? Miranda. They would say that I am clean and have a keen sense of sterility. Leon, OC. What's your favorite non-professional activity? 11. Miranda. Flora and fauna identification and nunchucks. Leon, OC. Describe yourself in one word. Miranda. One word. Leon, OC. One word. Miranda. Considers for a moment. Sharp. Leon. Train A, traveling 40 miles per hour, leaves Westford heading towards Eastford, 260 miles away. 1 hour after train A leaves Westford, train B, traveling 70 miles per hour, leaves Eastford towards Westford. When did the two trains meet? Miranda. They collided. We keep on Miranda. Is this the correct answer? Leon. What is your biggest pet peeve? Miranda takes a deep breath. Miranda. Bunions. Leon. If I gave you $50,000 to start your own business, what would you do? Another breath. Miranda. Tanning. Then. Tanning beds. Leon. Tanning. 12. Miranda. For all people. Leon. Including black people? Miranda. Especially black people. Leon. Okay, good. And then, tell me about a problem you have had to overcome as a team and how you overcame it? Miranda. I had to work with a team of Taekwondo experts, and we had to assemble a variety of poles. Poles. Miranda jabs at Leon with an invisible weapon. Miranda taunted. Poles for fighting, and we had to do it with single arms, not both of our arms. We had to work together. Miranda grabs her right arm. Miranda taunted. Shoulder to shoulder, and we had to assemble at least about 20 of those poles, and we did so, in record time. Leon. Okay, very good. What is your most significant career accomplishment to date? Miranda gives a quick smile and another breath. Miranda. Developing a tincture for tooth sores. Leon. Tooth sores. Okay. Miranda. Yes. 13. Miranda looks towards the floor and smiles, like she is actually remembering a fond memory. Leon. Good. Then, how would you approach a disagreement with your manager? Miranda. I would speak with them calmly without physical altercation. Miranda smiles, happy she nailed the question. Leon. Okay. Miranda. And I would take time to have space between each other, and then we would come back together after a significant amount of time to discuss said problem. Leon. Why are you memorable? Miranda considers the question for a moment. Miranda. Because I'm thoughtful. Leon. Okay. Thank you. Interior Thompson Center, Chicago, 2005 day. This scene and the loft scenes take place at the 5 o'clock mark, immediately after the interview with Leon. Miranda sits with a coffee and a copy of the Chicago Reader out on the table, looking through the classifieds. There's a young Arthur Leander on the cover, but she doesn't notice that. She's looking for one-bedroom apartments. Miranda suddenly remembers something, looks at her backpack, starts going through it furiously, digging, looking everywhere, but whatever's missing, it's not here. 14. Miranda. Fuck. Her frustrated scream is weird, and people look as she gathers all of her things, scrambles away. Interior loft building stairs hallway, Chicago. 2005 day. Miranda walks up some dark, bricked industrial stairs. She gets to a big barn door, which slides open just as she reaches for it. Saratoga, 23, almost runs into her. Saratoga, stunned. You came back. Looks back. Miranda came back. He pushes past her in a not friendly way. She goes inside. Interior the loft. Chicago. 2005 moments later. Pablo sweeps in the large loft space, maybe not totally legal, wearing just his pajamas. He's got a large broom and is sweeping up some wreckage of broken glass near the dinner table. He looks up from his work, shakes his head at her. Pablo. Stop there. Don't come any closer. Pablo raises the broom in defense. Miranda. I just came for my notebooks. Pablo. Sure you don't want to make another toast? Miranda moves into the space, ignoring Pablo and digging around in some desk drawers. Pablo watches her, and then, thwap. A folio lands near her. Miranda looks up. Jasmine, 20s, looks at her, shaking her head. Jasmine, we were your friends. You get that, right? Jasmine turns, storms out. Pablo eats a chip. Miranda confirms that what she came for is in the folio. 15. People stare at her in disbelief. Pablo. What are you wearing? Miranda. I got a job. Pablo. Cool. As soon as Miranda passes him, he grows a little more confident. Pablo conted. Well, now gotta find yourself another place to live. Miranda, folio under her arm, heads out in shame. Pablo conted. I banish thee from the skeleton collecti. Miranda slams the door on her way out. Interior Diner, Chicago. 2005 night. This scene takes place at the 6:30 mark of episode 103. Miranda sits in a booth at a diner, cup of coffee on the table, sketching Dr. 11. Almost nobody in here. Phone to her ear. Miranda, into the phone. I quit the art collective. Then, no, I got exiled. Then, I just need to live alone. Miranda listens for a beat. Miranda, into the phone. Contid. I'll just find someplace new. Then, okay, I gotta go, Auntie. Bye. Miranda doesn't see Arthur Leander, bundled up in a scarf and sunglasses, moving by on the sidewalk behind her, doesn't see him stop, look at the picture she's sketching. 16. She hangs up and goes back to the paper. Arthur smiles at Miranda, then the waitress, who seems smitten, flushed. Arthur. Can I have a coffee, please? He looks over at Miranda, who is not interested at all. He sees her folio, looks at the side of her face. For a long time, Miranda feels it. Arthur conted, to the waitress. Gracias. Arthur brings the coffee over to the table across from Miranda's. He takes off his scarf and hat, takes off his jacket. Arthur conted. Hi. Miranda barely looks up. Miranda. Hi. Arthur. We know each other. Miranda. I don't think so. Arthur. Aren't you an actress? Miranda. Number. Interior Arthur's brownstone bedroom, Chicago, 2005. Day 2. Takes place at the 21:15 mark of episode 103. Eyes pop open, and they are not the eyes of Miranda Carroll. Arthur Leander lies in bed, very hungover, in a simple bed set up in the sun porch of an old Chicago home, blinking himself awake. He groans, trying to remember last night. Looks in the spot a fan would usually be. No one there. Arthur wanders out of his bedroom pulling on pajamas, walks down the stairs and toward the living room. 17. And finds Miranda fully dressed asleep on a pull-out couch. She raises her head. Miranda. Where are we? Arthur leans against the wall, looking at her and chuckles. Arthur. It's my grandmother's house. 18. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern aren't dead. Okay, I find this really cool. This one is weird. This scene is of Kirsten giving a book report to Frank and Jeevan on Station 11. An early script of 104 has 1. Adult Kirsten convincing the conductor to go back to Pingtree, 2. Then this scene giving the book report, and then 3. Cuts to Kirsten and Alex scoping out Pingtree. Instead, the actual show has it as 1. Kirsten convinces the conductor to go back to Pingtree, then 2. Flashback of the scene of Jeevan butchering the wolves, and young Kirsten reading S11 to him. To the monsters, we're the monsters. You murdered Big Daddy's entire family. Jeevan. Murdered? The wolves think you're scary, like you think they're scary. And then 3. Cuts to Kirsten and Alex scoping out Pingtree. This scene should have been from 11:30 to 12:45. But this scene wasn't entirely deleted. Interior Frank's apartment kitchen, YRD5 night. Young Kirsten reads to Jeevan and Frank, who are both seated at the table, a deck of Uno between them, Frank's shuffling. Jeevan's on his phone, glances up. Frank, let's hear it. Jeevan? Hear what? Frank. Kirsten's book report. Kirsten. Station 11 was printed at Zelensky's Print and Copy Stop in Chicago, Illinois on November 28, 2020. Only 5. Frank. What's your source on that? Kirsten. Miranda telling Arthur. Frank nods to continue. 19. Kirsten, quantity. Only 5 copies were published. It is the storyjivel self-published for Kursa pushing on. It is the story of a stranger knave, Doger Eleven who refers me to Vloi Ungojuiv space on Pudanga stuck aboard a broken space station. An explosion destroyed the gyroscope. Young Kirsten has said it with a hard G. Frank. Gently correcting. Gyroscope. Young Kirsten. Gyroscope. And spilled half an ocean into the workstations of the crew. This drowned almost every grown-up. Quick flashback to Kirsten in the road at Laura's cabin. Jeevan! Did that sound familiar? They used part of the audio later in the episode. Kirsten sneaks into Jill's office to retrieve her copy of S11 she hid there years earlier. She has a conversation with Jill and invites him back to the traveling symphony, but he tells her no. And then Dan Romer starts playing some beautiful music, and Kirsten walks away as young Kirsten gives her book report, and we get a montage of pages from the comic book, Frank asking Jeevan if he's still afraid of the dark with Kirsten looking on, adult Kirsten reading S11 on the sand dune, which was originally shown at the end of 101, young Kirsten petting Luli, Miranda working on the comic book, and we get a voiceover of Miranda meeting Kirsten while Kirsten is staring out of Frank's apartment. I don't want to live the wrong life and then die, as Dr. Eleven slowly appears in the window. Finally, we make it to the scene of Kirsten getting ready for the play with Alex. 20. Just wow, fantastic. Big ups to Nick Cruz, the writer, Anna Hauger and Yoni Rice, the editors, and Patrick Somerville and Helen Shaver for directing and producing. I'm just so impressed by the editing. Filming was from January 2020 to March 2020. They shut down for a year and finished filming from February 2021 to July 2021. Interior Frank's apartment utility closet. Y0D5 night. Young Kirsten cracks open a tuna can. Next, she opens the vent in her space. Waits more, and soon, a little kitten appears, peering out. Kirsten smiles. Young Kirsten. Hey, Luli. The kitten hops down and she watches it eat. She looks through the small hole that is the vent, and we see her from vent POV, peering through a porthole to darkness. Interior Frank's apartment kitchen, Y0/D10 night. Silence. A peaceful time. Young Kirsten, Jeevan, and Frank all sit around the table, each of them eating chicken tenders, thawed and cooked and piled high. A real meal. They eat in silence, dipping in ketchup, chewing, a mundane and quiet family meal, maybe even a little boring. Kirsten steals some glances, though, at both the brothers, chewing, lost in thought. She seems happy and at peace. Smiling. Never felt more at home. Then the lights flicker. Everyone freezes. Looks around, looks up. Jeevan looks right at Frank. In his look, I told you. Lights flicker again and go out. Darkness. Frank. Did you? Jeevan. Yeah. Cut to black. Into our Frank's apartment kitchen, Y0/D10 night. Continuous. The blackness is seamless, and only a second or two before, click. 21. A lighter lights, and we see the three dimly glowing faces of Frank, Jeevan, and young Kirsten looking at one another, seated at the kitchen table. Chiron. D10. Just as they were. Frank. Hey, Jevan. Yeah? Frank. You still scared of the dark? 22. Dr. Chaudhary. I think this scene takes place roughly between the 28-minute and 30-minute mark. Interior Habermaker's birth area, Y1D6 day. Jeevan wakes up. He's lying on a bed, in a cluster of beds, in what seems to be the bed section of some kind of large, emptied-out commercial store, a la Target or Kmart. But it's built wrong, or it's different. The shelves aren't normal? As we pull up and look down on him, he blinks in the bright electric light, and we get the feeling finally. It's kinda hospital vibes in here. Two women, nurses. Is one of them pregnant? Walk by. Nurse? One. So what do? I don't know. Nurse. Two. I don't know either. I can't believe this. He's breathing heavy, not sure why there's a Cabbage Patch doll on his chest. A woman sits in a wheelchair next to the bed, reading. Terry. That's your baby, to practice. She closes the book. Is that Grey's Anatomy? Chiron. 3 days before the winter solstice. Terry gets up and walks around Jeevan's maybe hospital bed. She takes out a vial of something and sticks it into the IV bag that is connected to Jeevan. Terry, Contid. Are you a doctor? Jeevan. Hoarse. Come on. Laura walks by, pushing a cart of supplies. Jeevan, Conted. To Laura. Her name's Kirsten. Please. Terry continues to inject the IV bag with something. 23. Jeevan, Conted. Please. No, please. He starts to fade out. Jeevan, Conted. No. Please. He closes his eyes. Gone. Interior Habermaker's birth area, Y1D6 night. Quick shot of the Habermaker's birthing area at night. Lights are dim. A few people lay in beds, motionless.